Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. Today I just wanted to talk to you about why, especially lately, homeschooling has become the only sane option in an insane world. I have been a vocal supporter of homeschooling for years now. I originally started my blog in 2014, and then I went on and started this YouTube channel in 2017, and I have never shied away from the fact that I believe that school was never about education and that homeschooling is the best option for most children. And as I can see going on in the world around me, not even just here in my own country, but everywhere, it is quickly becoming even more of an emergency. It is becoming more urgent that parents start thinking about this option. So first of all, let's just talk about what's going on with kids who are now back in school with these CDC guidelines. They're having to wear masks all day. They can't really interact with their peers there so much for, socialization at schools. That goes right out the window because they have to stay. First it was 6 feet, now it's 3 feet apart, but I'm sure that they're still not allowed to actually play like they once did, maybe at recess. And then you have children. I've heard that some of them are being tested every single week for the C word. And, very quickly we're going to see a lot of V pushing going on with these kids in school. And, especially as they're being developed more now. I've seen that there is one that they now say that is safe for people from 16 on up. And I'm thinking, okay, so they're going to start pushing this in high school first. And as I was contemplating this, as I was getting ready for this video, I realized that the whole idea of distance learning probably really was great propaganda for the V word of getting kids back in school, because what's going to happen is there's going to be an entirely new group of parents who probably never would have considered injecting their child with that before, but with their experience that they had with distance learning with their kids and their idea that that is what homeschooling looks like, there are likely going to be a lot of parents who say, you know what, I'm going to do it because my kids need to be in school. I can't handle them at home. I can't homeschool. And that's why I think a lot of times we were seeing the fact that these kids were homeschooling being pushed more and more because they didn't want people to realize that there is another viable option that is much better than what these kids were doing in school. But that's for like another video entirely. And I've actually done videos about that before, which I will link in the description. But, the way that the kids are growing up in the school system right now, it's straight out of a dystopian novel, and they don't need to be learning in this way. So let's just move on. I'm going to talk about just a couple of things. If I would talk about everything that is going on in the schools right now, I would be here all night and I would likely probably get this video censored. So I won't talk about everything, but I will talk about now the push for CRT, critical race theory, in these schools. And the fact is that this theory is divisive. It has no grounding in reality. And the most important thing is that this is all about activism. It has absolutely nothing to do with academics, and it does not belong in a school setting. And that is when I think parents need to start realizing that school was never about reading and writing and math, not at least since they started the compulsory school laws. Way back in the one-room schoolhouses when there were community schools, sure, it was about reading, writing, and arithmetic. But once those compulsory school laws were put in place and government schooling was set up, that changed things entirely, and these are the fruits of it. Activism, not actual education. So I also just saw another article about boys in a school in Australia who were forced to apologize on behalf of their entire gender for things that they themselves have never done. So a lot of these schools are teaching all children that all males are misogynists, and it's creating such a warlike atmosphere, not even just in the schools, but it is carrying on into the greater community once these kids graduate. And again, this is all about activism. Now, thankfully, I have seen that there are a lot of parents who are speaking out about this. They are going to school board meetings. They are being very vocal about it. They've been on the news. They've been writing editorials. And I like to see that. I like to see that people are pushing back. Unfortunately, I'm very pessimistic about that option though, because what I've realized is that complaining and pushing back never really helps in the long run. A lot of times these schools might back down at first, but if the schools have an agenda that they want to push, you can be sure that they are going to put them in place, whether the parents like it or not. It might take a little longer than what they originally had hoped for, but it will happen. And you see this happening with, I don't know if you remember years ago, there was a pushback because they were teaching evolution in school. So there were a lot of parents who wanted them to teach creationism. Well, we can see that that never happened. It's still evolution right now. And I remember that even in my own community, not my school district, but one that's not too far away from me, years ago, they had a pro-life organization teaching their sex ed curriculum to their high school students. And some activists came in and said that it shouldn't be a pro-life group doing it. So they pulled Planned Parenthood in to do it instead. And we all know what their agenda is like. And the parents pushed back about that. But guess who is still teaching the sex ed? Not the pro-life group. It is Planned Parenthood. Because again, in the long run, the schools are going to put in place what they had originally intended to. So I want you to keep that in mind. While it's great that parents are pushing back, they're being vocal, they're letting other people know what is going on in these schools, the fact remains is that I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think that it's actually going to help. Parents over time will become desensitized. They will get tired of fighting about it. They will maybe see a lot of other school districts implementing the same thing, and they will just become so used to it that they will lose that fight that they once had. And that is when I think that instead of backing down, there's only one option that remains. The best way for you to rebel against the school system and the government and the world is to remove your children from the system entirely. Don't leave them there to be indoctrinated. Don't leave them there for them to be formed to be little activists for a cause that you, the parent, likely want nothing to do with. It is time that we as parents put our foot down. We take responsibility of educating our own children where our children are much better off. And really, it's time to just rescue your kids and homeschool them. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one here or on Instagram or on my community page. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.